Joining us now is Benjamin Anthony. He's the CEO of the MirYam Institute. Benjamin, obviously these killings are deemed to be very significant to the strength of the Islamic Republic in this given moment. But I'm interested to know from you whether or not you think this is a moment in which we're going to see Iranian protesters begin to take to the streets once again. Is this the blow that was necessary for there potentially to be the toppling of the regime?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's good to be with you. I think it's difficult to say, but my instinct would be to say that it's unlikely the turning point. For one reason, Iran is under massive bombardment from the US military and from the Israel Defense Forces, most notably the Israeli Air Force. And it's highly unlikely that people en masse will take to the street under those circumstances. I think what's going to be necessary is the continued culling of the leadership, as we're seeing being done systematically, extremely effectively by Israel primarily. And after a lull comes, perhaps you might have the uprising of the Iranian people. But I've always said that staking this operation in Iran on the uprising of the masses within that country is very, very risky indeed. Despite what many people say, Israel cannot afford to be in the business of liberating other populations. That's not our mission there in Iran. And also, when you think about Israelis and how we've all been living from shelter to shelter during the bombardment we have received from the Iranians, it's very easy to understand why there's a hesitancy among the Iranian people inside Iran to leave their homes and to take to their streets when they are facing a far greater and more intense bombardment at the hands of us and the United States of America. So we'll continue to peel them away. One note of caution: we have seen in Hezbollah, with regard to Hezbollah, and also with regard to Hamas, the steady, determined, repeated elimination of figureheads. And another one does crop up, and another one does come thereafter. Both of those, Hezbollah and Hamas, are non-state actors. When it comes to Iran and the regime, this is a regime that oversees a country. There is a deep bench there. And so I think that there is going to have to be some confluence with a popular uprising. But I don't think Israel or America can generate that. And I don't think the elimination of a given individual will bring it about.
Obviously, the issue at hand here is that when we speak to the average Israeli, most people are still very much in support of this war because they believe that it ultimately will lead it to the toppling of the regime. Of course, the Israeli government, the American government say that that is not the main objective here. But certainly the messaging, at least in the beginning of the war and prior to when it began, was that Israel and the U.S. were coming to the aid of Iranians in making that happen. So the question, of course, is if these strikes failed to essentially lead to Iranians taking up arms or, taking to the streets to bring down this regime, will it have failed in the eyes of both the American and Israeli public?
Well, it certainly won't have failed in my eyes. And by the way, I'm not eliminating the possibility that there could be regime change. I'm just saying that I don't know when that will happen. It could be now. It could be in the near distance. It could be in the further future. We don't know. It's very, very early days in the context of this operation, despite all the media hysteria and the nonsensical headlines about us having entered into a forever war. That is complete, total, and utter nonsense. As an Israeli, as somebody who lives in Israel, as somebody who, like you, like everybody that you know, has been running to and from shelters, I think that the target package that was put together is very clear. It is to prevent Iran from having nuclear weapons capabilities. That's why all eyes are affixed on this 450 kilos of 60% enriched uranium. Severely downgrade or eliminate the ballistic missile program, manufacture and delivery systems, and to break apart the terror proxy network that is arrayed throughout the Middle East and the world. And that's what we're in the business of doing right now inside southern Lebanon and even into Beirut. Those targets, those goals are legitimate pursuits. And if those come about, I will not say that this is a failed endeavor at all. I don't know about anybody else, but I will be very grateful to be free of that threat and that menace and that pursuit.
Right. Of course, the thing is, if the Islamic regime remains in power, will that threat ever fully go away? I want to talk to these warnings that we're now hearing from the Israeli Defense Minister Katz. He is warning of significant surprises across multiple arenas. What could that realistically mean on the ground in the coming hours or days? And how long at this point should we expect this war to go on?
Well, firstly, I don't think anybody knows how long we should expect the war to go on. Many commentators will talk about the economic pressures that President Trump is facing in the United States of America, the political pressures with the midterms that are coming up, not in the immediate term, but soon enough. So we'll see how all of that plays out. I do think that Defense Minister Katz really does strike the right tone when it comes to his rhetoric coming from the defense ministry in Israel. He seems to be fluent in Middle Eastern, and I appreciate that. He's making very clear threats. And I think when he talks about an intensification across multiple arenas, the one to watch right now is what seems to be the readying for a major incursion in southern Lebanon. Now, this doesn't mean a massive maneuver in southern Lebanon, but there's clearly planning to detach and to disconnect Hezbollah, the preponderance of whom are north of the Litani, from the terrorists on the front line, if you like, south of the Litani. And that's going to require the detonation of bridges across the Litani, the detonation and destruction and probably holding of crossing points across the Litani, and making sure that that which we erroneously settled for during the previous ceasefire, namely a total lack of a buffer zone in southern Lebanon, making sure that such a buffer zone does now come about. So that, coupled with the abrogation of the requirement for a secondary permission among the Israeli intelligence apparatus to target leaders inside Iran and inside Lebanon, that really does, to me, seem as though we're going to see an intensification of the fighting and the continued elimination of these leaders.
All right, that's Benjamin Anthony joining us. Thank you for that insight.